his way back from Chantilly, Virginia. You know, the Bilderberg members label protesters as cockroaches. But not everybody up there wearing a uniform supports them. Can't wait to talk to Alex Jones. It's his show. It's the Alex Jones Show. We shall return.
Alex Jones.
This is John B. Wells, in for Alex, and about to be joined by Alex. And I can tell you that it's an honor for me to actually bring on as a guest the man after whom the show is named, which is the Alex Jones Show. So welcome, Mr. Jones, to your own show.
John, it is great to have you coming and filling in. You do an amazing job. I'm so honored to have one of the big hosts from Coast to Coast AM who I routinely listen to on the broadcast. I had a chance to be on last week with George, and then again on Sunday night with George Norrie.
Yep.
Blowing Bilderberg Group wide open, and I'm glad my voice is coming back even more toad-like than usual. I've seen a lot of emails and comments on my YouTube videos saying, has Alex been drunk for the last 3-4 days? No, folks. My voice basically was gone, and that's why it sounded like this. But thank God it is almost back. John, it is great to be here with you today. I've just got a whole cornucopia of news from the latest on Bilderberg, what we learned, to the latest unfolding control grid with the globalists conquering the U.S., amazing nanny state, police state developments. I've just got a big report coming up for people in this hour, and then I know coming up in the third hour, you're going to be exposing just how serious the violation of our Fourth Amendment is by the good old National Security Agency.
Absolutely. It just keeps on rolling, doesn't it? And they don't think very much of the proletariat, do they? Those Bilderbergs.
No, they don't. In fact, the London Guardian reporter was able to go in before they kicked everybody out last week on Thursday. I was kicked out when I showed up Wednesday morning. My crew was kicked out. I tried to send them in first Tuesday night when we got there, but they knew who we were and threw us out. But other media was able to get in before they closed the hotel, and Charlie Skelton and others. So in fact, the article we wrote yesterday linking to the Guardian actually had other journalists quoted as well that confirmed that the hotel staff was rooting, quote, for Alex Jones and the, thousands of protesters over the 4.5 days, and that the Bilderbergs were walking around cussing and saying they wanted us dead, wanted to murder Ron Paul, wanted to blow him up in an airplane, calling us cockroaches. So that's been confirmed, not just by Jim Tucker's source, but Charlie Skelton, London Guardian, and other sources that we talked to. They didn't hear the kill Ron Paul part, my sources, neither did Skelton's, just that we were scum and trash and cockroaches. So we were definitely getting to them. We had at one point 7 bullhorns going simultaneously daisy-chained and many others down the street encircling the place so loud it was shaking the windows. We could see them shaking. Kissinger came out with his mouth hanging open because the one area of the big conference center that sticks out the closest to the road, most areas are 200, 300 yards away. It's a big piece of property. But the one big conference wing is the wing that sticks out by the road. And they put up big fences and black mats, but it didn't stop it. And the protesters kind of ripped down the black mat so we could bullhorn right into them, and it was amazing. Bilderberg is muy angry. We disrupted their criminal activities, their Logan Act violation, but more importantly, forced the mainstream corporate globalist media to cover it. This is a big victory. And again, I got to give credit because George Norrie was the first. I said 8 years ago on the show. It was actually 9 years ago. He first interviewed me about Bohemian Grove, Skull and Bones, and Bilderberg. And so he was the first big mega program that can be seen as, quote, mainstream in the sense of 500-plus stations to cover it. And then Drudge helped break it, drudgereport.com. And now it's in the Washington Times, London Guardian, hundreds of other publications, Washington Post. The shadow government, John, is blown wide open.
Outstanding. There may be a little bit of hope for humanity after all, because, back in the old days, it was underground radio stations, but it was all about music. Now it's underground, above-ground radio stations that are all about the truth and information. We'll be back with Alex Jones on The Alex Jones Show while sitting in.
Alex Jones.
And because Alex Jones wants answers, we get them too. And this is John Wells, the Saturday night guy from Coast to Coast AM, sitting in Alex's chair for the day. Delighted to actually interview Alex Jones on his own show. This is, I mean, who'd have thunk it? Who'd have thought something like this was even possible? Alex, I got a question that's been dogging me for years, and it is this. Is it just that you get the intel on where these meetings take place, and then the people come, and then the protests begin? Because I'm thinking, why are they not up in some mountain retreat with army guys all over the place keeping them out? Is it just is this just another arrogant gesture on their part that they're sort of underground yet above ground, that they do it in a hotel? Where
in Italy, sure. I mean, in Italy and in other areas where they've had it, they do have them up on mountain retreats and have the army out. But still, everybody basically knows it's there. Then there's complaints by the citizens and the governments that all these foreign interests are meeting. So in the past, they like to meet in conference-type hotels that do have land around them, and then just have the local police and their own private security out. In the past, it was only, if you go back just 5-6 years ago, it might be a dozen reporters or so. When I first called for people to protest it up in Canada in 2006, the first time I physically went, I've been covering it for 17 years, there was probably only a maximum of 30 protesters. There have been some events in Europe in the last few years where there were over 1,000. There were close to 1,000 at one time last year in Switzerland, in St. Moritz, where they actually shoot many of the James Bond Swiss Alp movies. And it was the highest hotel in the area, already in the high mountains, with a big mountain peak to the back of it, out on a jut of land. And then they even shut the road down in front of it. But that's still they were so arrogant. I think it's both, the things you said. They had armored cars, but you basically take them to the top of the mountain, and then they walked down for exercise, a bunch of Bilderberg group members, thinking we wouldn't notice them or knew who they were. Like we were too ignorant to be informed and know who the actual shadow masters are, and those confrontations are online. So I think it's a little bit of both.
Well, how bad is it? How far down the road is their plan? How close are they to fulfilling it? And how big a weed have we shoved in their ears to maybe
this is a victory
this?
Because, sure, I mean, this is a big victory because over the 4.5-5 days that Bilderberg was taking place from Thursday through Sunday, there was conservatively more than 2,000 people that came out and protested. Generally, people could only come for a day. They all had jobs, families.
Sure.
Because you wouldn't really see a lot of the same people the next day that you'd seen the day before. And we had over 600, 700, 800 at one time on Friday and Saturday, and another 500 or so on Sunday. And people would come, spend a few hours, and then leave. Some people would travel 500, 600 miles from places like Pennsylvania, West Virginia, just to come and protest a few hours. Some people came in their work vehicles and then had to turn around and go. So it was really amazing. But the big victory here is the Washington Post has attended because the publishers of it were the first media ever let in 54 in Oosterbeek, Holland, where they first met. And they showed up, the Washington Post showed up and had their own reporter thrown off. And they kind of wrote a whitewash about it. But the point is, that article that then ended up in hundreds of newspapers that carried the Washington Post columns. And so suddenly, all the people that were told we were crazy, this didn't exist, well, now they're going, wait, well, it is real? And as I said, DrudgeReport.com 5-6 years ago started helping break the electronic Berlin Wall. Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie 9 years ago. Time just flies. First time he interviewed me back in 2003. It was on Bilderberg, Skull and Bones, Bohemian Grove. That helped break it. Now the Washington Times, London Guardian, they did serious reports on it and admitted that there had been Logan Act violations in the past and things. This is really amazing what's happening. It's very, very exciting. And they're in there discussing government policy. There's lots of little break-off meetings where they go and make sweetheart deals with corporations and government elected representatives. It's extremely dangerous what's happening at Bilderberg. And their agenda is moving forward, but it's in trouble, and it's being identified. So right now, humanity is awakening, but we're in a lot of trouble. But at least people are starting to wake up a little bit.
Anything specific, anything encroaching that we're about to feel nudging us in the not-too-distant future?
Yes, the biggest thing is that last year at Bilderberg, it was mainly IT people that were invited, the head of Google, the Facebook people, all of them, and the head of the NSA last year and this year, the head of the European spy agency, Infopol 9 was then there going back years, but also there this year. So this is all about spying, and the globalists think that their technocracy of spying and drones and ground robots and combat robots and robot cars and biometric face scanning and surveillance blimps and license plate readers, they believe that this new national security state, basically turning the whole country into a giant airport-style security with TSA everywhere, checkpoints at malls, highways, it's all happening now. It's not just, oh, hey, it's coming, this is their plan, it's now happening. They want this rolled out fast, and that's actually some of the news I've got for you coming up after the break, but they believe the technocracy is going to save them. They know the military is going to say no to confiscating guns, so they're just going to 30,000 drones we pay for to be used against us, weaponized, all being announced. They know that people are waking up and going back to barter and back to the land, so they're erecting the Homeland Security Rural Council, now showing up with the U.S. Army in plain clothes, backing local feds to take your property, to raise taxes, to give you $2,000 a day fines for dust in your barn, just total harassment, total Stalinistic, telling the Ukrainian kulaks they couldn't have their farms anymore and starving, 15 million people there in Eastern Europe in just a few years. This is the plan. I mean, this is diabolical. They want to totally break the back of the American people. This is total war. And again, our government's gone. You still have military people that are good, people that don't understand this, but they've told us that the UN and NATO now run our military. NATO is just a narcotics trafficking organization, caught hundreds of times doing it. It's another globalist power system. And now our Congress has been told they pull the shots, and now the Air Force has got 10,000 drones. They're getting another 10,000 on top of that. They're operating domestically. The EPA says, yeah, we're watching farmers, the runoff into your creeks. We're using spy satellites on you. That's in the news today from Infowars.com, from EPA announcements. And it's also linked up on Drudge. So all of this is really in everyone's face. They're announcing giant dirigibles to fly around at 100,000 feet surveilling us and going, oh, guess what? They're already in the skies, as I told folks a decade ago. So much of this was already declassified. Now they're throwing it in everyone's face. So it's a giant arms race by the global bankers that have hijacked our country. And they'll say, give your rights up or China will get you. Give your rights up or Russia will get you. Give your rights up or Al-Qaeda will get you. But all the real architecture of the police state is targeted at a guy with a John Deere hat. Somebody who can skin a buck and run a trot line, people that have their own property. It's all a global corporate takeover who have actually made deals with Russia and deals with China. And on the surface, they act like they're fighting with each other. And there is some friction in the globalist camps between Russia and the European U.S. banking elite. But the number one enemy of the banksters is the American people. The globalists paid $20+ billion, as you know. Anybody can just search this. It's Reuters, AP, you name it. That 3 years ago, the bailout of General Motors shipped. Let me just re-click my Skype here. It started doing that again.
We still got your audio.
No. Listen, we're just not going to do Skype. I just want to turn Skype off because I don't want to go through this like I did Sunday. This went on and on. All right, now, going back to what I was saying, folks, here. And listen, John, I know I'm ranting here. The point is that we're told there's all these outside